Hi, and welcome to the Ask My Mom podcast, a podcast for young adults about all the things we didn't learn in school. Here to share her knowledge with our generation is my mom, Gen Xer, and accredited financial counselor, Jennifer. If you learned something on today's episode, or simply enjoy the pod, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to it. To get in touch with us, you can submit your questions via email to askmymompod@gmail.com. You can also like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at askmymompod. We greatly appreciate all your support. Hi, welcome to this week's episode of Ask My Mom podcast. Today, Noelle and I are going to continue the conversation we started last week about savings. Today, we're going to talk about manage your money, don't let your money manage you, and we're going to go into debt. No, we're not going to go into debt, but we're going to discuss debt.
I'm going into debt. I bought a car this week, everyone. That's just a life update.
But I'm really proud of you for the interest rate you got. So I wanted to read you some statistics, Noelle, and get your thoughts.
Okay.
Shoot. So U.S. consumer debt. So consumer debt meaning Americans. The debt that we as Americans have total. What do you think? Do you think it's in the millions, billions, or trillions?
Billions. That's my guess.
Billions?
Just
okay.
Billions.
Okay. So actually, total consumer debt of the United States is $14.1 trillion.
Have you seen the video where they take the grains of rice and they explain how much a billion is?
No.
Okay, well, it's a lot of rice. Way more rice than a million pieces of rice.
Really?
And then I saw the update to it was Bill Gates' net worth, and he's worth, like hundreds of billions. And the pile of rice was like the size of like the carpet in my living room. It's like a 8x10.
So this is trillion.
Like mound of rice. So I can't imagine how much 14 trillion is in terms of grains of rice, but each grain of rice was accounted for to like $10,000 or something. So much rice, so much money. Why are we in so much debt?
Sometimes we don't know how to manage our money. Sometimes we can't put off what we want till tomorrow. We have to have it today. So impulse shopping. It's really
also,
hard.
Like regular valid reasons to be in debt.
I mean, if you really
buy a house and you're in debt.
Yeah, you can't really save $200,000 in 5 years to buy a house with cash. So,
right.
So some debt is good debt, some debt is bad debt. So a house would be really considered good debt if you're living in it, taking care of it, paying for it, you're building an asset. Bad debt, what do you think bad debt is?
Bad debt is like credit cards. Gambling debts are bad debt.
Yeah, that's a good one. Gambling debt.
That's all I got.
So as of 2018, the average American carried $90,460 in total debt.
How much?
$90,460. That's the average.
The average? That's insane. The average.
So if you think about that, your dad and I would be $180,000 in debt. And technically,
because this includes your house.
Well, 90,000 is the average American.
But that includes like your home.
Your house, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you have a mortgage.
Yes. But, it didn't break it out that way. But let me tell you that the average credit card debt per household is $8,398. That's per household. $8,398. That's the average. So some people are way higher, some people are way lower. Okay, you look confused.
How is the average debt per person $90,000, but per household only $8,000?
Well, that's credit card debt is $8,000. The whole household.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even hear you say credit card. I thought you were just saying more general debt. I was like, this isn't making sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. So that's credit card.
Sorry.
That's okay. 55% of Americans with credit cards are in debt, which means that they carry that balance each month and they're not able to pay off their balance each month. So if you ran up your credit card, like some people do, they pay all their bills on their credit card and then they pay it off every month, you're really not considered in debt. But when you cannot pay it off, so 55%.
When you're paying on it, your monthly payment, you're in debt.
So 55% of Americans with credit cards are considered to be in debt.
That number is actually lower than I thought it would be. I would assume that more people would be in debt if they have credit cards, but I'm happy for them.
So here's
I wish I was though.
So Americans aged 25 to 34
carry the most credit card debt with an average of $10,400. So that's your generation-ish.
I'm below average. Woo! Slightly.
The good news, delinquent accounts have decreased by 45.66% since 2009. So to me, that says younger people are doing better than their parents.
And managing their money. Yeah. That tracks.
Yes. So here's a fun one. What do you think the average student loan payment is?
Per month?
Yeah.
$500.
No, it's less than that. $393 is the average. So some people obviously are way higher, some people are lower, but the average is $393. 10.8% of Americans with student loan debt are more than 90 days delinquent. So 10% of people, almost 11% of
who
people
have student loans are in debt or are 90 days delinquent.
Yeah. So 44.2 million Americans have student loan debt and 2.8 are in forbearance. And then 10% of that 44.2 are delinquent. So a lot of people are not paying their student loans. So forbearance, that doesn't mean you're behind, right? That means they're allowing you to not pay right now.
Yeah, you can put them off.
But
sometimes you do that, they increase your interest.
Yeah. So forbearance is not always the best option because your interest continues to accrue. So I do want to do a whole episode on student loan debt, but I just wanted to touch one more thing on that is also when you have those like income-based payments and things like that, sometimes your payment is less than the interest that's accruing. So in either of those cases, that just means your debt is growing.
Yes.
So I
remember when I graduated last year, so about a couple months ago, I had to start making my payments and I had to choose my plan. And I remember trying to run the numbers on which repayment plan to sign up for. And I noticed that with like a couple of them that I would somehow still be losing money, even if I'm paying on them.
Okay. And I wanted to give you just some, compare our generations since you are a Z Gen. And I am a millennial. Let me just find.
You're not a millennial.
No, I'm not a millennial. I'm an X Gen.
I'm a cusper. I'm right on the cusp of Gen Z and millennial. Okay,
so the average debt for Gen Z, average 18 to 23, is $9,593. Because some of them aren't in college yet. No, it's not just credit card debt. It's just debt. Because 18, they're not in college, probably don't have a car loan, you know.
Okay,
if it is credit card debt, that's a lot. But
that's what I was gonna say. If you racked up $9,000 in credit card debt,
but this is also the average. So some people have cars and things, and some people don't.
Oh, I guess I'm not even thinking about all of that when we're talking about debt.
Yeah, I wish they gave a median instead of an average, but they average it out. So there is a lot. Or
if they broke it up, I would want to know like the credit specific. Because if everybody's in debt because they bought cars, that's not necessarily a bad thing, or because they're in school or whatever, or bought a house. I don't know. But if it's just all credit card debt, that's an interesting.
So millennials, are you ready for this one? Millennials age 24 to 39. And these are all stats from 2020 so far. This is a current article. Okay. So millennials age 24 to 39, $78,396.
Sounds like we got some home buyers in there. I don't know.
Student loans.
Student loan buyers.
Yeah. I think student loans is a big
but the
problem.
Average American is 90,000.
Yes, the average.
The millennials are doing better than you.
Average average American was 90. Well, let me tell you what my generation is. Okay. So Generation X, the cool generation.
Okay.
40 to 55.
100. You're of course 40 exactly.
Well, actually, I would still be considered a millennial because I'm 27. This year, I will be celebrating my 23rd annual 27th birthday. Woo! But I'm still going to claim Generation X.
Math jokes.
Anyway, Generation X. We are at 135,841 for the average American.
Yikes!
So we are the highest numbers. But
why is that? Do you have nicer houses?
I don't know that we have nicer houses. I feel, so my personal view on this is I feel that we fell more into the credit card trap than your generation is.
Yeah, we're a a little more savvy to what's going on here.
Yeah, because I feel like we were the first generation to really have like ATM cards, debit cards, credit cards. I think we talked about it in another episode where I talked about my grandma and how they used to charge things.
Yeah, so at the JCPenney.
Yeah, so I won't get into that story again. But I think we were raised to use credit because it was new, kind of like it was more easily accessible.
Yeah, it was the thing like they do now with you don't get paid till Friday. Well, you want this, so that we'll pay you in the middle, and it's like it was easier to use credit because you didn't have to balance it all out all the time. You could just pay it back when you got paid.
Yeah, so like my parents' generation was the first generation to really start using those credit cards, and then that fell to us, and now we went, oh no, this is not so great, and then we try to teach our children better. And then also we have houses, and I don't know that our houses are nicer, but we are at our peak earning right now.
40 to 55 is your peak earning.
Like your 50s are your peak earners. So the more you earn, you can have more debt, right? Ish. I mean, if you justify it.
Is that true? You make the most money in your 50s?
Yeah. So you're going to do great.
I don't know if I'm making that long.
You will. So your baby boomers are 56 to 74. They still have 96,984 in debt. But that's the biggest generation. Yeah. Like millennials and baby boomers are two giant generations, and us Gen Xers are kind of smushed in the middle. That's why millennials have such a hard time finding jobs, is because there's still so many baby boomers age 56 in the job market. Working. So that's the struggle. But so they still have debt and they're paying off houses. And then the silent generation, that 75 and up, they're at 40,000.
Why do they call them the silent generation?
Because they, so was it last year? I went to a convention and they did have somebody in there talking about the different generations and how we look at things and like our attention span and all this. It was pretty cool. Anyway, so they were the ones who just like, they worked in factories. Mm-hmm. There weren't computers. We didn't have all this technology. So they just went to work. They did what they needed to do and they went home. They did what they were told. They did their jobs and they went home. They didn't complain. They were our World War II vets. You know, they just did what they were supposed to do. And then you have Gen Z folks questioning everything.
Millennials too. Gen Z are barely entering the job market.
Yeah, millennials. But they talked about like I know this is completely
I think about that a lot. I think about that a lot actually, that sometimes I wish, well, I don't wish that I lived then. I like when I live now. But I think that it must have been so much easier before social media and the internet and seeing so much of the outside world to just get your job and live your life and come home and like
have your family.
To live in a smaller community in that way. Yeah. Even now, if you're in a small community, you're connected to the entire world. The idea of getting up and doing the same job every day for the rest of your life seems so crazy now because that just doesn't seem like there's just so much there. So I think probably 50 years ago, you wouldn't necessarily know that.
So do you think that having access to the whole world like we do causes us to have more debt?
I don't know if it's having access to the world causes more debt, but I think in the aspect of like social media, it causes more debt because I think there's a lot more of a need. I mean, even like fast fashion, like as an entire industry kind of came up off the idea of regular people at home, young kids at home get to see what celebrities are wearing. You obviously can't afford Balenciaga, so you're getting like the Fashion Nova version. We spend a lot of money trying to stay more in touch with the trends, I think, probably, because we have a constant new coming at us. Yeah. So I think in that aspect, it probably can. I mean, actually, I know it contributes to debt. I've put stuff on my credit card because I wanted to get clothes or shoes or something
that you saw a celebrity wear.
Not necessarily a celebrity, but like that's what everyone's wearing now. That's what's all over Instagram. So like I gotta go get, what's going on. Because then now you go out and you feel weird if you're not where everybody else is. But really we're all just in debt.
Right. So you got to keep up with the Joneses, as we used to say in the olden days. Right.
We're keeping up with the Kardashians.
You know how I feel. Like I won't sit here and
you won't fight me on this podcast.
Negative things, but I do feel like, the Housewives. So like I remember when the first season of the Housewives came on.
I remember. I'm a housewife lifer. I remember.
And they were all in the big earrings and the shirts that were empire waists with the cleavage,
and they had the bedazzled jewels in the middle.
Yes,
This is
and
OC.
And I had
And
to
you
go
bought
get
those
some of those
shirts.
blouses. But this was all new because, Facebook was around, but it wasn't like it is now. There was no Snapchat. There was no Instagram. We were just moving off of MySpace.
Well, and I think Facebook also was, MySpace was a kind of like, for my generation, more of like getting into that. But even still, like on Facebook, like you were friends with, like, I know you were friends with people, like you were friends with in high school. And so it was nice for you to like see what everybody's up to. But it wasn't about like showing out the way it is now.
So social media wasn't really there showing us things. So we had the housewives and how these rich ladies lived.
Inside the gates of Coto de Casa.
Yeah, 20 years ago, I never would have thought about buying Kate Spade. I wouldn't even have known who Kate Spade was other than watching the E! Network and seeing somebody say they're, so.
Yeah.
Why do I need a $150 purse when I can go to Target? But what do I carry every day? Kate Spade.
Oh, the Kate Spade you carry now, you got you. I was going to say, who got that for you?
I stole it from Jenna and I had to buy her the smaller version.
I got them everyone out.
Big time clearance though. And I bought them on the base. So it was super cheap. So because I would never spend the tag price of that purse, but I got it for like a third of the price.
We won't even talk about my bags then.
Anyway, so I think your generation though is smarter about trying to get out of debt faster than my generation.
Oh yeah, I think that everyone I know who's in debt, which again, me and my friends talk pretty openly with each other about these things, is very much in like trying to get everything paid off like ASAP. No one wants to have debt for 5 years.
Right. And we didn't have, we had student loans, but not like
we
y'all
do
now. Right. So it's completely different world. And so I appreciate that the younger millennials in general, I guess, and your generation is more focused on not being in debt and paying it off. They see that it's something that you're going to carry through your whole entire life if you don't take care of it. But maybe it's because you saw your parents struggle with it.
I think that's a lot of it. If you guys have the most debt, because I know we talked about it a little bit last week, that seeing your relationship with money really affected the way that up until you and dad kind of got under control. Definitely affected the way that I'm like, debt is horrible. Cannot be in debt. Debt is not the answer. Do not use your credit cards.
Yes.
But it's not as much from you telling me as me just watching you guys
freak out.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be in debt, but how much debt do you think is too much? Back to the first question after we discussed all these numbers.
As a number or a percentage of my income?
How do you think of it?
I think that obviously if you're clearing 6 figures in a year, you probably have more debt because you probably have a more expensive home and a more expensive car. Maybe the credit card debt, I don't really know. But no, you'd have a higher credit limit too. You probably have higher debt if you make more money because you can get approved for more loans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
I would say too much debt. Any debt, right?
Well, I like that thought.
But also,
so do you feel that
20% of your income in credit card debt is too much? When you start getting into your car and your house, then it's kind of a different breakdown. I think your total debt should be, if you own your home and you're including your mortgage and you are paying on your car every month and you have credit card debt, I feel like 50 to 60% is the right amount of your income. Possibly 70, because I don't know, homes are expensive. I don't know.
What are you including in that debt thought? In that percentage that you're coming up with?
Your mortgage.
Okay.
Your car payment. Okay. And your credit cards. And I don't know, maybe like if you have a hospital bill or other debts, etc.
So debt is any money you owe anyone, right? Not your living expenses, not your electric bill, not your groceries.
No, but your mortgage.
But your mortgage would be a debt. Okay. And then we have secured and unsecured debt. And that's that good debt, bad debt. So our secured
okay.
Debt, yeah. So our secured debt is something that there's collateral behind it, like your house, your car. Unsecured debt are your credit cards. So unsecured debt means the person who loans you the money, there's no security in it for them. There's nothing for them to take from you. So that's why your interest rates are higher.
Oh, I just assumed that was just kind of how it was. I didn't know that was like, or there was a reason.
Yeah. So your house, they can come take it back from you. So your interest rate's lower. Or your car. And you got a great interest rate on your car last week. I'm still very proud of you.
Thank you.
So
it's about to get even better.
So those are the things that we kind of look at when we talked about this. So the average debt for your generation, $9,593. So
honestly, we're killing it so far.
Well, compared to everyone else, you absolutely are.
We obviously haven't had the time to like buy homes yet and do all that, but I'm just gonna say so far we're crushing it.
Okay. So your percentage that you said was a little high on what amount of your income should go to debt.
And that includes both kinds of debt?
That includes all the kinds. Even if you owe grandma money, that's debt. Okay. Student loans, debt.
Okay.
Credit cards, all of it. Okay.
Wait, give me the percentage.
Okay. So when we go get a mortgage, our mortgage company looks at our debt to income ratio, right?
Yes.
So they're looking at 38, 36% debt to income ratio. Some mortgage companies will loan you up to 42, 43% if you have that debt to income ratio. But your interest rate's higher. But I like to see 35%. No more than 35% of your
total
income.
Debt, and then so that would mean 55%, right, of my income. 65%.
35.
No, but the other side would be 65% of my income should not be going towards debt.
Right. It should be your savings and your living expenses.
This is not good news.
Well, when you were buying a car, do you remember what percentage I told you your car shouldn't be anymore?
You said anything higher than 5 was not good, but because I'm young, I might have it a little bit higher, I think.
No, not your interest rate, your percentage. I gave you that sheet to fill out that told you how to figure out.
I filled it out, but I filled it out like a long time ago, like 6 months ago before Corona, when I wanted to trade in my car the first time.
Okay. Wow. So.
But I can tell you that I think my debt is less than that, I think.
Less than 35. So I'd like to see it at 35.
But it's hard when I start thinking about my student loans because that's like a different.
I know people kind of think they don't really put that in there because some people are in forbearance or whatnot, but you have to consider that as a debt. So you considering that as a debt, you make your other decisions based on that. And a lot of that is why so many millennials have had failure to launch.
Student loans?
Yeah, because their student loan payment is such a huge percent of their income. They can't afford to move out. They can't afford to buy a home. They can't afford to leave their parents' house. That's why so many millennials still live with their parents, or one of the reasons, I guess. Probably not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons that they're still there.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and especially, wages don't go up as often as they need to. And there's not that many jobs like we talked about earlier. And I think having a big student loan payment is really in the way of everything, because then when you're trying to pay everything you can on your student loans, then you end up a lot of times in other kinds of like credit card debt, still just trying to make it work, because if your student loans are, 40, 50% of your income is fresh out of college, you don't have any money. So then you use your credit card and 40%. Then
so the whole total, including your mortgage, should be no more than 35%.
35, got it.
35, because now your mortgage company will loan to you at up to 38 and some up to like 43. But I like to look at 35 to keep you on the safe side, because that means you're just managing your money better. And if it squeaks up a point or two, okay, you just get it back under control.
Yeah, these are goal numbers,
Yeah. So how do you know
how they work?
How do you know where you are? How do you know what your debt to income ratio is? And that's an important number to know, your debt to income ratio, because mortgage companies look at that. When you went to get your car, they probably kind of looked at that too. Maybe they probably didn't tell you. Oh, they did tell you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an important number to know about yourself.
Well, your debt to income ratio, I'm guessing, would be your debt, all of your student loans, your credit cards, your car payment, if you have a mortgage, whatever other debts, etc. And then compared to your income before or after taxes? After taxes.
I think the mortgage companies,
lower number.
The mortgage companies look at it, I think, before taxes. But I like to do it after taxes just to get you a little bit safer.
Because your taxes don't count. They're not your money. It's
not your money. Yeah. You don't get to keep it. So when you're
Which is
looking at what's left to
the
buy
real
groceries. Yeah.
is that you make this much money is your job offer, but you actually don't make that much money.
Yeah, because the government takes their chunk and all that good stuff, and you want to put some in your 401k.
Right.
So to figure out your debt to income ratio, you figure your income after taxes is how I like to look at it. And you take your total debt payments every month, you divide that by your net income. So net is after taxes. And then you multiply that by 100, and that gives you your percentage.
Okay, wait. While you do it, tell me that again. I'm going to do mine.
Okay, so you take your total monthly debt payments. So not your utilities, not your living, it's not your groceries, just your debt. So your car, your credit cards.
I'm doing it with my new car so I can see where I'm at now.
You probably don't want to tell me when you're done.
Wait. Okay, I think that's all my debt. I really don't have that much debt.
Well, what do you?
Right
and it's just
now.
your monthly payment. So your car
this
payment.
Is my monthly. So I have all my debt. I got it.
Your car payment, your credit card payment. Divide that.
Student loans.
And your student loan payment. Divide that by what you make each month. Take home.
Okay. And then
multiply it by 100, or just move the decimal.
You're gonna freak out.
What are you at? Do you want to share? Oh, good job, Noelle.
36%.
Good job.
Crushed it.
Yeah. So stay there.
You know what I just heard though? Like in the back of my head was like, you could probably squeeze in a couple extra percentages.
Well,
that's not that bad.
You squeezed. You got 36. So that's good. So reverting back to last week's episode, are you putting at least 10% into your savings?
I haven't gotten paid since last week's episode.
Okay. So you need to move at least 10.
This Friday. You know what? This Friday, everyone who's listening can also do it. We're all going to put 10% of our check in our savings accounts.
Yeah, and then post on our Facebook that you did it. You don't tell us what the number was.
Everybody do it.
You just have to go on our Facebook and say, I put 10% into my savings. You don't have to tell me what your 10% was.
Yeah, we'll do that. And then it'll be that we'll all save 10% of our income this week. We'll all be richer next week.
Yeah. So when you are trying to pay off your debt, how do you do it?
Okay, I actually know a method of paying off debt. This is not actually necessarily what I do, but I know the snowball method. Yes. One of my coworkers talked about it, which is when if you have like 4 credit cards or 4 different, one of them's a hospital bill, one of them, 2 of them are credit cards, whatever. You do the minimum payment on all of them, except for the smallest one. You like max out what you can possibly put on it every month. And then as it pays off, then it would pay your smallest loan off. You're going to take all the money that you were putting into that smallest bill on top of your minimum payment for the next bill. And then that'll pay that one off super fast. And you do that until all your debt's paid off. So you focus more on paying them off one at a time, probably the one with the worst interest rate first. And then eventually you just, instead of doing it piece by piece on all of them, which seems like it would be an easier way to do it.
So you're exactly right. Crushed it. So first you need to do your budget first. So you can find the extra money, because you said in there, in what you just said about taking the extra money and putting that towards one of your debts.
As much as you can put yourself on a tight budget, as much as you can. If your minimum payment is $50, but your interest rate's like crazy, and that's the one you're paying off first, then if you have an extra $150, you take it out, you stop eating Chick-fil-A, and you put it all on top of that one bill, and you knock it out.
Right. Exactly. Create your budget, figure out what your debt is, and then come up with a plan. So find that extra money when you do your budget, because that's really what a budget's going to be great for, because we can always find extra money when we put everything down on paper.
Right.
Then you see on paper exactly what your debt payments are, exactly what you still owe on that debt and that interest rate, and that helps you log it and plan that payoff. On our website, I have put a link to, it's called PowerPay.
We'll link it on the Facebook also.
Oh, okay. I can do that.
We'll share the link from the website to the Facebook.
And on our website, though, I also put, I think it was Utah State University.
Okay.
Yes, Utah State University. I wrote it down. They have a PowerPay resource. So
what is that?
It figures out just exactly what you said, the snowball, but it's just called PowerPay. And you just do it online. You just create an account. I also linked the instructional video. It's a YouTube video. that they have that shows you how it works before you create an account, just so you know exactly what to expect when you get in there.
All
and
right.
There's also a cute little commercial video that I linked just because I like cartoons. But it tells you, so you put in exactly what you said. You put in your minimum payment each month. So even if you already overpay a debt, don't put that amount in. Put just the minimum payment you're required to pay this month, the balance due, and your interest rate. And you list all your debt in there. And it shows you the best way to go. But you can choose if you want to pay your smallest balance first, or you want to pay your greatest interest rate first, because sometimes, it depends on our thought process. How do you see it? Are you like, I want to see gratification sooner. I don't care if I save an extra $300 in interest. I want to see that I make progress and get this debt paid off. Or if you're the person, you want to save as much money as possible, you can just go with the higher interest rate. So,
well, and I think it's also
you.
not about what you're thinking, but what you're doing it for. Because if your goal is to get it off paid as fast as possible, I would think going by dollar amount and knocking them out one at a time would be like, if you're say, oh, at the end of the year, I have to trade in my car. I need to get rid of some of this debt so I can have more money like very soon. I would think that way might be a little bit easier. But if you're worried, if you can take a little bit longer, and you're not in the same rush, I think you could do it by interest rate, right?
Well, and some people like to see that more instant gratification. They want to see progress
and you get the little boost in your credit when you pay off a whole credit card.
And they're boosting your confidence because you did it.
Yeah, and you feel great. Yeah. That's how I feel every time I pay off my Gap credit card.
Yeah. But the PowerPay website will also show you how many years it's going to take. So it's going to tell you how many years it's going to take if you don't do the PowerPay method, and then how many years it will take if you do per debt. So you'll see in there, it could take you 12 years, but if you use the PowerPay method, it's going to take 3 years. It breaks it down into months, like years and months, which I think is fantastic. And it shows you like, pay this one, and then when you hit this one's paid off, that money rolls to the next one, just like you said. So I think that's a really cool resource. And it's free. Cool. It's Utah State University, and the links are on our website.
Is that it?
I think that's all we have this week. I don't know. I think.
All right. I think that's it. We got to do our little recap. What did we learn?
What did we learn today? So I learned that your generation is doing really well on their debt load. So I'm very proud of you. I learned that my generation, we have the most debt, but we are still the coolest generation. I think we should be fine once we're old and gray. We'll probably still have mortgages, though, I would think. I think you've learned a lot, like you said, from watching your parents.
Definitely.
I hope with the millennials, I hope they don't end up where my generation is with their debt load. But I do also think social media plays a part, or reality TV plays a part in the increased amount of debt. But student loans are not helping.
I would say I'm not going to give social media the worst side of that. I'm going to say that student loans are probably more directly responsible.
Yeah. And it is sad that home ownership for the millennial generation is not what it was for my generation at a younger age.
No.
So I think that's a struggle. And I would love them to see them have good debt like homes and less credit card debt. Now, if you feel that your debt, or even if you don't feel that your debt's out of control, but you want to make sure that you can increase your savings, paying down your debt's always a good idea. So try the PowerPay. I think that's, if you came to me for financial counseling, basically we're going to do a budget. We're going to find extra money, and we're going to plug in those numbers and come up with a plan, pay down your debt, and set yourself up for a really awesome house with a little bit of mortgage. I think I need to go have a beverage.
You might need a nap. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Ask My Mom podcast. You can get in touch with us on Facebook at Ask My Mom Pod. You can email any questions to askmymompod@gmail.com. And of course, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to this. Thank you.